I saw this clip of Ciara in a black dress walking down some stairs. I don't know if it's her house or something, or if it's just a model shoot. I don't know. She looks fabulous. She looks fabulous as fuck in there, but it's like the dress is like real, revealing, you know. And the first thing I thought was like, well, she's a celebrity and shit. Okay, she's a celebrity, And then you kind of think like, the next thing you think obviously is about like, oh, Russell Williams, yeah, the simp, right? You know, just fucking simp. No biggie. We know it's a simp for this bullshit. Oh, okay, but it's like it's our expectations of how she should act and shit. Okay, when she's an individual, when she's her own person and whatnot, she's a celebrity. She wants to be out there. And I think like when I saw her picture, her in the black dress, that she looked the best she's ever looked in her entire career. And that like when I saw that, that clip, that brief clip, I thought she looked the best she ever looked in her entire career, even when she was younger. I remember her getting dragged and shit when, I don't know if the '90s or the 2000s or something, but uh, she did a routine on a dancing on top of a car in a Ludacris video. And everybody said it was a dude. Everybody said she was a dude and shit. And I looked at it and I can't tell if it's a guy or not. I thought maybe just as some guy doubling her because she couldn't do the dance and shit. That was the best, possible outcome and shit I could see of it, other than the fact that people were actually saying she was a guy and shit. And I look at this and she's obviously not a guy. And people say, people can talk shit, but a lot of sisters are gonna come out. They be coming out like Voltron, coming together like Voltron, defend these women, these fucked up behaviors. They don't ever, they don't ever hold each other accountable and shit. And if they do, it's not in any appreciable numbers where we'll make her, think about it, because she's like a mother and shit. Okay, she's a celebrity. She has multiple children, I guess. I think she had more than one. I don't know. I don't follow her like that, but I do. I am aware of Russell Williams. His Wilson or whatever the fuck his name is. Sorry. See, I fell off the whole sports thing and shit after when the Colin Kaepernick shit, just to put things in perspective. So I kind of erased my tapes on that. But like her husband is a willing cup. All right, those are he's taking care of Future's kids and shit. She gave one of his own, just to be fair. And I guess that's that and shit. But she is an old broad, man. Like that would piss me off. Like it was on a regular level. Like just a regular dude. If they were regular people, it'd be like kind of shitty. It's like, man, what the fuck? Like, why do you want to be out here? I don't want to say she's competing with younger women and shit, but I've seen her like doing shit, like twerking and shit. And it's like, okay, she's got a athletic, slender figure and shit. It's like, why are you twerking and shit? That shit don't work. Shake it, don't break it. I saw her with the big horse woman and shit, and another female in Europe. They were twerking and shit, and these it's decidedly European people all around them. They were only black women there. And they were like making a spectacle of themselves. And that shit really gets on my nerves. That's why I decided to make the video, because I like a lot of sisters rub their pedigree in our face and they got money, they could do this, they can do that. They could do things we want to do 10 times over before we even think to do it and shit. And when they do it, they embarrass the fuck out of us on the world stage and shit. They reinforce negative stereotypes, okay? If you could call men like traffickers and shit and groomers and, offenders and shit, we can tell you that your ratchet behavior embarrasses and reinforces negative stereotypes on the world stage that will, at some, collectively, it hampers our movement abroad, outside of the country. And I guess, unintentionally, that is your goal, to just be this deterrent, this stopgap, to keep us in a certain place at the bottom of the barrel across the board. All right? When I look at Ciara, I don't think shit. All right? I like the dress that she was wearing. I like that, and I think she looked the best she ever looked in her entire career, even when she was young. I never thought shit of her. Okay? All right? She's just like any other black woman to me and shit. She has a pookie, fetish, and she got a simp to take care of. She did all the things the black woman's supposed to do. They go out, ride the cock carousel, and fuck off all the good years and shit with the pookies and the goofballs, and do all this other stupid shit and, engage in, questionable activities. And then when they're tired, they find the dude. They start doing that. What this other content creator termed the reach back, or they find a useful idiot to give them cover and shit, so they can regain their respectability on some level by saying getting wifed up and shit by like some desperate dude or some guy that's been through the ringer and he's just tired and he don't feel like fighting it anymore. He gives into the gynocracy, and that's what the fuck goes on. And Russell just he's just doing his programming and shit. A lot of Negroes, a lot of y'all, man, y'all want to be on that program and shit. Y'all want a female to come in and she's tired and she's tired of running the streets and everything. And she's ready to chill out. She's going to let her waistline expand and she's going to start wearing panties that start under her boobs and, not looking so good. And, every now and then she'll starfish for you or bend over, And hey, it's all good and shit, man. Because at least you got some worn out, busted peace leave in the house. And I guess that's what it's all real about, right? Really about, just capitulating and shit. They want you to be just sitting there on the bench waiting for them to tap you in and shit, And once Pookie get his last, when he get the last few back shots on him, just really smash that shit in the back, man. When he really just, and they know they ain't seeing him no more. And then that grief's gonna set in and shit, and then they're gonna have him 5 stages of grief, and then a moment of clarity and shit. And then they're gonna think about you. Like, yeah, remember that guy? He used to like me. Every time I saw him, he used to have that thirsty look on his face, that desperate, thirsty look, like he's almost finna cry if I just wave at him and shit. He busts a nut. Yeah, they think that's you. All right, is that you? All right, was Russell Wilson? Yeah, it was obviously that guy. It was obviously her current husband. I know I probably keep saying his name wrong and shit, but like, some people I just fucking tune out, And he wouldn't be on my radar or nothing. But I just happened to see a commentary that was talking about how like her wearing that dress was disrespectful because you could see certain parts of her body and shit. And she's a public figure, a celebrity and shit. She got to do stuff to keep her profile up. She seems to think she has some kind of career or something. And I don't give a fuck. All the stuff she ever made that I like was what she did in her youth. Visually, I like what she looks like now. Especially in this black dress with this really nice weave. Farrah Fawcett would be so proud and shit of that. You appropriated and upgraded the feathered, 1970s hair look. That's what that looks like to me. It's not baby weave. God knows I'm waiting for sisters to get off that trend. The baby hair weave with the little shit pasted to the side of your scalp or your temples there. Yeah, wait for that to go out of business along with fishnets and shit and 304 gear, like stripper gear, like as a nightwear. I think that's pretty shitty. At this point, if I see a female with some goddamn fishnet shit on, I just tune her out. I was like, I'm out. It's like them talking about getting a lick and shit. They get that lick though. All right, and Ciara, she gonna get that lick from somebody. Well, you can't really be with a female like this. Like on a our level and shit, on regular people's level, because a lot of guys, whether they want to admit it or not, they're gonna have a ever-present sense of anxiety that she will go back to her old lifestyle and shit. What they say, tiger can't change the stripes, a leopard can't change spots. Something like that. It's always got to taste this shit, I always got to taste, And I think, I'm pretty sure Ciara's husband has that level of anxiety somewhere deep down his skull, right? Because everything's on the line. She can always pull the trigger and shit and get the fuck out of there with a golden parachute made up of his assets and shit since they were married and have a child. All right? And who knows, she might do that once she realizes she's hit the wall.